Beyond the Mic with Sean Dillon.
We're joined on the star line by a journalist who's written poetry, essays, and newspaper columns. Life is a tropical garden as she lives between two volcanoes, but only one is active. Her first series is Orb and Arrow. We welcome author Victoria Stuart.
Hi there. How's everything in Texas? A little warm?
Always warm, Victoria, always warm. Let's go Beyond the Mic. Brilar was supposed to be a healer.
Yes.
Instead, she's an archer who's mentoring under a mage. What a beautiful opening for a series. Who is Brilar based off of?
Well, way back in 2000, my son introduced me to an online role-playing game, and I got hooked into the game. Swords, sorcerers, and my main character was Brilar. The game ended in 2016, and the personality, the person that Brilar was, kept percolating in my head for some reason. I sat down in March of 2019 and just started typing. She sort of jumped out at me and captured my imagination. The book was done in 24 days. Real furious storm of creativity.
24 days? Wow.
Yeah.
So no writer's block there.
No writer's block at all. In fact, my husband learned that if he wanted to get my attention in my writing room, he had to scratch on the door, because if he knocked, I levitated out of my chair in shock. I was so engrossed in what I was doing that an interruption, like even a gentle knock, was something I couldn't tolerate. So it was an amazing journey, those 24 days. Forced my husband to learn how to cook.
Is he a good cook?
Not really. He does make a good hamburger.
As you go deeper into the world of Orb and Arrow, you are always adding new areas, like your upcoming book, Master of Magic. Why is creating your own universe so freeing? I mean, how much of your universe is still yet to be explored?
You step out of the ordinary world, even when you're reading science fiction. Sometimes you still feel trapped in an ordinary world. But when you read fantasy fiction, you are completely out of the realm of the ordinary. Nothing is ordinary. Anything can happen. You can stumble upon, as Brilar does, a mage who is under an enchantment and can't act for himself. She has to release him. So that is a fascinating idea, and that, I think, is what people into the world of fantasy. That and the fact that you have no car, you have to get around by horseback, and getting back to the soil really appeals to a lot of people, getting back to previous days.
It's time for the Rocking 8. 8 random questions, Victoria. Answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. There is no pressure.
Okay.
Which English error was caught most by Grammarly?
Well, I discovered when I was working with Grammarly that I had forgotten how to spell. The things that were most common for me were homonyms. Heel, H-E-E-L, and heel, H-E-A-L. I didn't have any problem with there, and there. I did have some trouble with it, and which one had the apostrophe. So it was mainly homophones, I think, for me that Grammarly caught.
What's your favorite orchid?
Well, there are so many. I like the Paphiopedilum or lady slipper type orchids.
So what's worse, a torn meniscus or writer's block?
Writer's block has to be the worst, but there are ways to get through it.
What do you suggest?
I suggest that you go back and retype the last 2 pages of the story you're working on.
That's good.
And then just don't stop.
Which would you rather be better with, a sword or a bow?
I have to agree with Brilar's father on that. A woman needs to be able to put an arrow into an attacker before he closes in. So I would rather be an archer.
Now, when you're planning a book, do you write out, type out, or tape your ideas first? Do you have an outline?
I just sit down and let it flow from the brain to the fingertips. And it does. I don't make outlines. Working on a very long book right now. And when I got to the end where there's a battle, and I'm going back and forth between the good guys and the bad guys, I started making notes on what happens on what day. But that's as close as I've ever come to making an outline. It's just character-driven stories.
You're in such a fantastic world. What's your favorite mythical creature?
Well, I love the unicorn and the griffith. I love both of them.
Where do you get most of your writing done?
Well, Orb and Arrow was all written back in my little cramped office space with the door shut. So my husband had to scratch. But right now I've got back trouble, so I have to float from chair to chair. And I just take my computer with me and float from one place to the next. So that's working for me right now.
Which actress would you consider as Brillar if the Orb series was turned into a movie or TV?
You know, that's a question that I have pondered to myself. I don't have an answer because I live in Costa Rica. I haven't seen a movie in years. I have no idea who's available to be an actor or actress, although there was one actor that I saw that I thought, it was in a commercial, and I thought, gee, what is so attractive about him? And then I realized it seems to be the embodiment of Elden. But for actresses, I have not a clue. I'd love to see some more movies. I don't even have HBO. I'm really stuck.
It's time for One Big Question with Victoria Stuart, author of the series Orb and Arrow Beyond the Mic. Victoria, if you could give advice to a young writer on the topic of world creation, what would it be?
World creation, do it first. I made a big mistake, but then I was just writing in free flow. But I realized later that some of my distances were off. So I would say, start with a good world building program and go from there. Kind of have an idea in your mind who lives where your great schools of magic are, where the king's castle is, where the rivers are. And that way you'll be able to tell how many days it takes to get from, let's say, Lawrencell to Land's End and then over to Brotherhood. Otherwise, ride the unicorn over.
She loves the unicorn, lets the ideas flow.
But I have no unicorns in the book.
And would be amazing at using a bow. Author of Orb and Arrow, Victoria Stuart, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you.
And that, my friends, is a Beyond the Mic shortcut.